Welcome to the Annex.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Gays on the Go in TO.
I'm Mary.
I'm Gabby.
And this is episode 2 of the Annex.
We explored a lot of interesting things in this episode, some including cool architecture,
the history and the historical figures.
Yeah, lots of different restaurants, bookstores.
Don't forget all the different subway stops too. Lots of TTC. It's a bustling area.
So we hope you guys enjoy. Follow along.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. The Annex is between Avenue and Bloor. And from Bathurst to DuPont. Am I gonna be walking across the street like it's Abbey Road? Like it's Gabby Road? Oh my goodness gracious. Behind me is the Royal Ontario Museum, the ROM. And for context of how old this building is, on April 16th, 1912, it was signed into Ontario legislature, the ROM Act, which was 4 days after the Titanic sank. So you can't sleep, and I got, oh, that's that me espresso. This is St. George, one of 4 Toronto subway stations in the Annex neighborhood. You got the yellow line, line 1, going north and south, and the green line, line 2, going east and west. So this is the old home of the 14th Prime Minister of Canada, Lester B. Pearson. While he was at U of T, he lived on the 3rd floor apartment of this home. Woo, gay people, gay love, yeah. Because the Annex is right on the cusp of the University of Toronto, there are a lot of frat houses here. Yeah, A-E, N, I don't know what the Greek, I don't know what that is. Delta, Alpha, whatever, I don't know.
So this house is one of the examples of a style of architecture specific to the Annex that was created by someone, I don't know his name, when the Annex was being built up.
This is another example of the Annex architecture in the neighborhood. Like, even look at the doorknob. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's sick.
Nice. This is an example of how some of the homes in the Annex specifically are being gentrified.
Boo, gentrification.
Boo, gentrification.
Though I acknowledge I'm a part of it.
Here we're at the Gwendolyn McEwen Parquet. Gwendolyn McEwen was a Canadian poet and author, publishing more than 20 books in her lifetime. McEwen's first poem was published in the Canada Forum when she was 17, and she left school at 18 to pursue a writing career. By 18, she had published her first novel, Julian the Magician. I'm on the steps of the Walmer Road Baptist Church, which is right across from the Gwendolyn McEwen Parquet, and I'm surrounded by the community garden. Right here's some dill, beside it is some gold leaf fennel. Gonna fuck up a slushie, I'm not gonna lie. This is Spadina Station, the second TTC subway station in the Annex neighborhood. Spadina has line 1 and line 2, just like St. George does. Ooh. Don't look at me, I'm embarrassed now. Here we have a staple on Bloor Street. BMV Books. Books, music, and videos.
Excuse you.
Wanna check it out?
Let's do it.
Discreetly. Spiritual and religious books, videos, fiction, nonfiction, children's books. In this house, we believe trans people and fuck J.K. Rowling. Yeah. Okay. That's all I wanted to say for that. Dog in the bookstore. Dog in the bookstore. Oh, hi. Hi, kitty. Hi. Do you know who the Brunswick Four are?
The Brunswick Four refers to 4 lesbian women, Adrienne Rosen, Pat Murphy, Sue Wells, and Lamar Van Dyke, who were thrown out of a Toronto bar on January 5th, 1974. Their expulsion and eventual detention led to charges and significant public outcry at their treatment by the bar staff and the police. The Brunswick Four case raised awareness about homophobia and harassment in Canada and fueled Toronto's growing LGBTQ+ rights movement.
Anyone home? Hello? No one's home. Damn. Throughout its history, the Annex has been home to immigrants coming to Canada and settling in Toronto. According to a 2016 census, 46% of the Annex residents are not native English speakers, and almost a third speak another language other than English at home. The neighborhood has been home for immigrants from a variety of countries, including Italy, Poland, and Portugal. One of the biggest immigration waves came from Hungary in the late 1950s. Between 1956 and 1957, about 37,000 Hungarians immigrated to Canada, 7,000 of whom settled in Toronto, fleeing the Hungarian Revolution and the Soviet takeover under the Stalin government. When these refugees arrived in Toronto, many were temporarily provided housing by organizations like the YMCA and Salvation Army. However, the Annex would soon become a cultural hub for the growing Hungarian community in Toronto. In the 1960s and 70s, Hungarian-run businesses opened to serve the communities. By the 1990s, many local Hungarian businesses had closed. Country Style, located at 450 Bloor Street West, was one of the last remaining Hungarian restaurants in the Annex. Have you watched Scott Pilgrim vs. the World? The Battle of the Band scene, that was filmed at Lee's Palace.
Y'all, this is my favorite sushi place in the Annex.
Shout out Japan Sushi.
We love you.
They have the best noodles.
We love you,
best
Japan Sushi.
Yes. Credit to View the Vibe writer Alexander Coney, Bloor and Bathurst has a history of being the center of Black Toronto since before Canada was even a country. Enslaved people in the United States, seeking freedom in the North, often sought refuge in what was then referred to as Upper Canada. Albert Jackson, 1857 to 1918, was born in Delaware, United States. As a young child, 2 of his older brothers were enslaved. Upon learning that 4 or more of her children were to be sold, Jackson's mom, along with 6 of his siblings, fled to St. Catharines, Ontario, via the Underground Railroad. Jackson became the first Black letter carrier in Canada and posthumously was awarded a plaque by Heritage Toronto in 2017 and a stamp by Canada Post in 2019. Jackson and his descendants would go on to own many houses around Bloor and Bathurst, including 213 Brunswick Avenue, 234 Brunswick Avenue, and 238 Brunswick Avenue. Bloor and Bathurst, which was later dubbed Blackhurst, remained a hub for Black Torontonians, especially the entrance to Bathurst Station. The entrance became a gathering place, as well as sites of frequent police violence. Residents were frequently made the victim of police violence and told their stories to Black publications like Contrast magazine. My last semester in my journalism class, we had a seminar about Al Hamilton. Shout out to Aaliyah Davidson, who spoke at that. Love you, Fifth Estate. And Al Hamilton actually created Contrast magazine, which was one of the first Black magazines in Toronto. And its home was right behind me, 28 Lennox Street, which has now been turned into condo buildings and a community college. Credit to the writer Neil Armstrong from the Angles Covered blog. The newspaper, with the tagline, "The Eyes, Ears, and Voice of the Community," was founded by Al Hamilton, who is from Edmonton, Alberta, in 1969. The first issue of the paper was published on February 9th, 1969, and its front page was about Sir George Williams University, now called Concordia University, and their race-related riot in Montreal. It was launched as a bi-weekly and subsequently became a weekly publication in 1972. The paper took a hard line on issues of racism, policing, and immigration. Amid the growing gentrification crisis, community groups such as the Different Booklist bookstore continued to provide educational programming and walking tours telling the Black history of Bloor and Bathurst. Behind me is A Different Booklist, a Canadian multicultural independent bookstore specializing in books from the African, Caribbean diaspora and the global south.
Many of these people who are up on the wall were connected to this area. So there's Al Hamilton there, there's Bev Maskell, there's Harry Gary, there's a skating rink that's up on Dundas called the Harry Gary Rink.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So all of these people are connected with Bathurst. That's Austin Clarke, who was a famous author. He won the Giller Prize, the Commonwealth Prize. He had a house over on Brunswick Street. That is Lloyd's Barbershop, his son. That's Akeelia there. She had a restaurant, a vegetarian restaurant in that area just up the street. That's Harry Gary Jr. And the skating rink that's up the street was really in honor of both him and his father because he got denied access to a skating rink. So that is part of there. So this person here, she's the mother of Lenny Johnson, who started Third World Bookstore. And the person who's holding the dog, her daughter, Ruth Bailey, was one of the first Black nurses to go to school in Canada because they were telling them that they couldn't go to nursing school to go leave and go and get it in the States. So there's so many different stories that are linked to each of these women. And this is like from 1912. And all of these are domestics that came up from the West Indies. So they each have their stories as well as stories of their children that went on to do great things.
Behind me is the third subway stop in the Annex neighborhood, Bathurst Station. Here you have the Green Line, Line 2, which goes east and west. You also have bus transfers and the 511 streetcar, which takes you all the way down to Exhibition Place. How much is left?
$2.40.
Behind me is DuPont Subway Station, the fourth and final subway station in the Annex neighborhood. Line 1 takes you north and south, as well as bus connections to take you east and west. Oh my God, the TTC is always late. It's been 2 hours. Come on, let me on.